If you've got your notes, you can pull those things out. Hopefully you'll take some. You can reach our note section by going to our website. We're in a series here called Yes, We Will. Say those words. Very good. It's for the month of April and the month of May. We're looking at 7 commitments that I really feel in my heart every one of us should, as Christians, be willing to make, and as a church should make. But these are very dear to my heart, these commitments, because this is helping you to prepare for the next stage of the journey here at Grace as God prepares to bring in a new senior pastor somewhere in the near future. I would like a new senior pastor here at the church, a lead pastor, to come in and look at all of you and want to pastor you, and would want to uproot his family and come from where he is to this location to be your lead pastor. In order for that to happen, you have to be healthy Christians. No pastor would want to come into a church where it's a dysfunctional group, or it's a group with, let's say it the way Don would say it, a bunch of lazy butts. So what we're looking at is a gut check. We're looking at our hearts, looking at our lives, looking at our families, and say, are we healthy what? Healthy Christians result in healthy churches. You don't get a healthy church if you've got a lot of unhealthy people. Now, I'm not doing this series because I think you're unhealthy. I'm doing this series to make you mindful of what the Lord would expect of you, and hopefully what a new pastor would want to see in your lives, that you're a healthy, vibrant group of people. Many people think that when you go to hire a pastor as a church congregation or as a leadership team, that we're going to grill this person and ask them all kinds of questions and put them under the magnifying glass. Any pastor worth his salt is going to come and do that to you. Before I would uproot my family and move somewhere, I would want to know the kind of people that I am going to be leading. Doesn't that make sense to you? And I would hope that a new pastor would explore your heart and in your family and this church in these 7 areas. Hearing these commitments, it would be my desire that you would say, yes, we will, speaking on the behalf of your family. If it's just you, yes, I will be committed to these things. So far, we've talked about striving to be a healthy Christian. And we simply said being a healthy Christian can be easily defined. It's that you're Christ-centered. Your whole life revolves around Jesus, in your beliefs, in your behavior, in the things that you prioritize in your life. Healthy Christians are those who are continually striving to be healthy. And I said strive is almost an athletic or a military term. It means you have to fight. You have to fight to be healthy because our culture is continually trying to pull you down. You have the world, the flesh, and the devil attempting to wreck your life and your family's life in this church. So you have to strive, and that's an athletic and a military term. We said you have to be a warrior. Secondly, as you're striving to be a healthy Christian, you have to grow, and that's an active term, grow in your faith and in your fellowship. Grow in your knowledge not only of the truth, but of Jesus. Get that you grow in knowing Him. And that should result in you connecting with and being part of the family, the spiritual family that God has you part of. Your fellowship is not having coffee. Your fellowship is interacting and sharing life one with the other, praying with each other, encouraging one another, etc. Last week we talked about living a lifestyle that honors God and helps people. You honor God in all that you do, and you go out of your way to try to help people whenever it's possible. Now, you're not always going to be able to help everybody on planet Earth, but you can help one person. And that really should be our goal. You're not helping people to earn anything from God. You're doing this for God. You are God's hands. You are God's feet. You are God's heartbeat. You are God's love to the world around you. So as you honor Him, you help people around you when you have an opportunity. Now let me ask them, have you been watching any movies or TV lately? in particular movies, maybe on the internet, maybe going to a theater, definitely on your TV. Ev and I have found ourselves, as I told you several weeks ago, we cut back on DirecTV, decided to save some money. Can any of you relate to that? And now what we're watching is just some of the other options that we have. We've been watching pretty much a movie every night of some sort. Just some of them have been very entertaining. Some have made you sad. Some have made me angry. Others have made me crack a smile. Some I've outright laughed at. A lot of the movies that I've watched have made me think deeper about a subject or a situation than what I currently have been. A number of those have caused me to research while the movie's playing. Hey, that's interesting. I want to learn more about that. We just watched the movie called The Dig. Have any of you seen that? If you haven't, it's a great movie. It really is. True story about archaeology. Now, I know some of you are going, woo, that's my hot button. Not any of you, probably. But I found it extremely interesting. What have you been watching lately, and what has it done for you? Has it made you a better person? You can watch all kinds of crap on TV, true? And things that would make your Lord cringe if he knew you were watching them. But there are some things on TV and on the movies that are worth your investment, because they can make you a better person. There's movies, there's documentaries, and there's true life stories. Have any of you seen the programming called The Chosen? If you haven't, you need to look that up. The Chosen is about the life of Christ. Excellent series. But there's all kinds of stuff out there that you can watch. And as we've been watching movies, here's my thought to you. Do you ever stick around for the credits? Now, some of you do, increasingly so, because we've heard there's something funny. There's something outlandish. There's something about a sequel or a prequel that's going to be given to us. But really, if you go to a theater, if there's 100 people and the credits start, how many of that 100 do you think are walking out? The vast majority, true? Unless you've heard there's some sort of teaser there. I want you to think about the credits. Now, this is taken, anybody know the show? Okay, you'll have to think about that. But oftentimes they put something funny there, and the fabulous fish guy, and they put little interesting things now because they've learned that we can hold people there, hold their interest, and actually maybe get them to see the next show, or there's a product or something at the very end they want you to understand. But the shows we watch would not have taken place without all these people that in the credits, right? You ever see The Grip director or The Grip? Have you ever looked that up? What does that mean? Somebody with a strong handshake? What is a grip? So there's a lot of things you look at that. You have no idea, and that's probably why most of us do not really stay around and watch the credits, because we don't understand technology. We don't understand how they make movies, but it's all really pretty interesting. I want you to think of that. Without those people, and not all of those people are paid. Do you realize that? Some work on movies because they're an intern or they're giving of their time, etc. So you have paid, but you also have some unpaid people. You have highly trained people. You have novices and interns. True? So I want you to think about that. That movie or that show that you watch would never take place without those people. Now think, we're familiar with the stars, right? But who are these people behind the scenes? And I use that idea of the credits playing to have you think about church. Well, that's Pastor Don up there. He's been here since dirt was discovered. And that's Lisa with her minions that play there. You don't know all of their names, right? But who are the other people that make church happen? And if the credits for Grace Church were played at the end of this service, and the names of the people who work in our clubhouse ministry, our children's ministry, were played, and the people who are in our bridge or our teen ministry were played, would you know them? Who's on our prayer team? Prayer team, and here's their names. Worship team, here's their name. The tech team, the hidden tech team in the spaceship back there. Who are those people? Who's on our maintenance team? Who are our home group leaders? Who teaches in our Grace University classes? Who are our missionaries? You see, I'll bet there'd be no one in this church that could list all those people. Church would not take place during the span of the week without them. Agreed? So who are those people who serve here? And not everybody whose name is in the credit gets the same money or the same prestige as the stars. But would the star have a job without these people? No. And you wouldn't have a pastor who would be very successful without all of those people. So today we look at our fourth commitment. Our fourth commitment is pretty simple. It builds upon last week, which is to honor God and help people. Our fourth commitment is this, is that we serve in God's church. You serve in God's church and your community. We're talking about serving. Serving. Two areas. Whose church? This is not my church. This is not my church. Now think of your house. Your house is associated with the people that live there, right? For most of you, it's not your house, it's the bank's house. They own it. And it won't be your house forever because you could die or move. So while this church may be somewhat associated with me, you'll notice that for 27 and a half years, you've never seen my name on the front of the church because this is not my church. You see that said of many, many churches where somebody's name is on the billboard and oftentimes as big or bigger than the name of the church. They'll never happen here, at least with me, because I'm very conscious of the fact this place belongs to God. It's His church. You're His people, you're not my people. But you have a community. You have a community. Now, what does it mean to serve? To serve is very simple. Now, most of us, it's not rocket science, we can figure it out, but here's a definition. To serve means to provide someone or some group. To provide someone or some group with practical help so as to meet a need. You really haven't served them if you haven't met a need. And you can't really meet the need unless you give them some practical help. How many of you have ever been a waitress or a waiter? A wait person? Okay. Wow, really? Are they all at that table? There's not very many of you. How easy a job is that, waitresses and waiters? It is difficult because you work with people. Okay? For many of us, we would say, I would never want that job. And aren't you glad that someone has that job? Yeah. See, in a church, you're not expected to do everything. And in your community, you're not expected to do everything. You're expected to do something as a citizen and as one of God's kids. So to provide someone or some group in a practical way so that it meets a need. The person actually walks out of there having a need met. That's how you know that you have served somebody. God's church in your community. God's church and your community. God's church is described in the Bible as a body, as a family, and as a building. Primarily, those are the three terms in which we see the church illustrated. A body's pretty easy. Look around you, you see a building, and I think we all kind of get the concept of family. All three of those have interdependent components. Right? Aren't you grateful that you have 2 arms, 2 legs, and they work most of the time? I mean, if you're right-handed, and all of a sudden your right hand is taken away from you, you have a whole new skill set to learn. One of Evie's dear friends good golfer, was a softball player, all that, very active. She went to Florida with her family, right, to vacation. And Ev, she did what? Tripped? How many of you ever tripped? And the result of her trip, Ev, was broke her left arm and broke her right wrist. How would you like to get along for the next 2 months like that? You have some immediate concerns you've got to think through. How is such and such going to happen? Okay? We take the parts for granted. In a church, we take the parts for granted. You're sitting here, but do you realize there's people in the children's ministry that are teaching a lot of children? That are leading them in worship, that are helping them do crafts. We have people fully armed in the armor of God and other devices floating through the church. Should somebody wish to attack this church, it would be their sad day and probably their last day. It's good to have people in all the various areas of church ministry. And we get to enjoy the benefit of it. They are providing a service and a very practical help that meets a need for us, so we can sit here and focus on what God would have us to learn. Last week I said the church has to be viewed as a spiritual organism. It's alive, not a social organization or a secular organization. Each of us have been brought into the body of Christ the moment we're saved. Each of us are a part of His family, part of the building of the church. We're part of His spiritual body, which means you and I have a responsibility to that body, to that building, and to that family. True? None of us can really imagine a family. Some of you are close to it, but no one can really imagine a family where there's a husband and wife, possibly 3.2 kids, 4 dogs, 17 sheep, whatever you may have, and only one person doing all the work, and that's usually mom. And everybody else sitting on their blessed assurance. How long would that last in your family? You see, there are certain responsibilities in all families, yes or no? Now, it's based upon character and competency. I mean, you don't give a 2-year-old the responsibility of, much, okay? But as a person matures, say the word matures, you should be given more responsibility. And the evidence that you are mature in a family, in a workplace, and in a church, the evidence that you are mature is you seek responsibility to make it easier for everyone. You don't just what? We'll say that again. That's a question. You won't just sit and do, what's the next word? Followers of Christ are committed to the priorities of God. Now catch that. Followers of Christ are committed to the priorities of God. And one of the priorities of God is His church. Attenders of church are committed to themselves and their agenda. That may seem harsh, that's biblical. Sometimes the truth just hurts. If you're a follower of Christ, then you go out of your way to make things easier for God's people and seek to carry out God's priorities. We live in a world that's consumer-driven, and that, unfortunately, has crept into the church, where it's all about us. And we go to church if we feel like it, if we have time for it, and we serve with the same motivation. And I'm going, boy, why would you expect God to bless your life and your family with that attitude? As Christians, we should seek to serve in His church and in our community. What do you mean by community? It's where you live. I don't live in Bellevue. I live here in Nashville, Maple Valley area. It's where you go to school. It's where you work. It's where you interact with the culture around you. Some of you may work in Lansing, Grand Rapids, Battle Creek, or some other city, Hastings, Charlotte. That also is part of your community as long as you're there. You work there. But you may live here. They're both your community because you spend a large amount of time there. Does that make sense? Okay. The Bible never tells us to live in isolation. That would be our government. Got it? Social distance. No. Physical distance for health. Yes. Not social distance away from people. God created this body called the church made up of people. And we interact with people. That is life. Now, if you need to come and wear a mask, knock yourself out. But you ought to be part of God's family on a regular basis. The Bible doesn't tell us to live in isolation. It tells us in Matthew 5 that we're to function as salt and light. Are you familiar with that passage? Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And I'm not sure Jesus, when he said that, meant on a computer screen. Let them see your good deeds. You have to engage with people. That's your community. And again, you feel like wearing a mask, you feel like wearing a hazmat suit, do it. But engage with people. Don't hide in your bunker. I don't know how you can feel that you're making a difference in the lives of people by living in isolation. Do you? Does that make any sense to you? If it does, I'd love to interact with you about that. You have to engage with your church family. You have to engage with your community. How? Well, we'll be talking about that. There are some good reasons why you and I, and the church as a whole should be committed to serve. New pastor will come in someday. He's going to expect to see this many people fully engaged in ministry in this church and have a place of ministry in your community. If I'm a new pastor coming in here, I'm going to go visit family. I'm going to say, tell me where you serve in the church. Tell me where you're serving in your community. That's what a new guy wants. That's what a new guy is praying for. That's what a new guy would hope that a church that's been in existence for this long is fully committed to. Here's what Jesus said as he is interacting with two of his followers. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus. Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. Doesn't that sound like a modern church issue? Pastor, do what we want you, or do what we want you to do for us. Isn't that sort of consumer driven? Yes or no? Yeah. Well, what do you want me to do for you? They replied, let one of us sit at your right hand and the other at your left in glory. Now, I've explained this in Jewish culture. If a person is a rabbi, the person at their right side is their most favorite follower. And they want everybody else to recognize this is my favorite. Moms and dads do that sometimes. It's not received well by the other children. And then this guy at the left hand, he's not as much a favorite, but he's pretty much a favorite. Everybody else get behind. Doesn't that sound like our culture today? Recognize me. Put me in the limelight. Let me have what I want. Now, it goes on in verse 41 here of Mark 10. When the other guys, the guys in the back, when the other 10 heard this, they became indignant with James and John. They were ticked. They wanted to pound them. Jesus called them together. Do you see the potential problem here? When you've got a couple prima donnas in a family, on a team, at work, school, and in a church, potential for disaster. Calls the 10 together and he says, Jesus handles things better than I would. Granted, I don't have the J on my chest. Sorry, it won't stick. He called them together and said, don't you just love the way Jesus talks? that those who are regarded as rulers in the Gentiles, those people out there, lord it over them. Lord it over means this. That's what lord it over means. Lords it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Have you noticed how people in the government do that? No. You have? Not so with you. Jesus says there's new rules in my church. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you. Now, he's saying this to all of them. Here's James and John going, and the other 10 going, not so with you, he says. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be a slave to all. For even the Son of Man, I just love the way he talks, the way he rationalizes. For even me, the Son of Man, did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. That's Jesus speaking. Now, he spoke to them. Is that saying anything to you? Yes? Would your name appear in the credits of this church? You figure it out. Would your name, your family's name, appear in the credits of this church? In other words, where are you serving? Would they appear in the credits of our community? Now, you all got jobs. He's not talking about a job in the community. He's talking about ministering in your community, serving people for God in your community. So, Jeff Fisher, teacher. Jeff Fisher does sports, coaches sports. His wife is a nurse, right? We all have jobs. Are you using that opportunity to pray for people that you come in contact with? Are you living a Christ-like life as you nurse, as you teach, so that others can see Jesus in you? When you have an opportunity in your job, are you talking to others about your faith and helping them to think spiritual thoughts, not just whiny, selfish, secular thoughts? Are you ministering in your community? I didn't say Jeff has to be a pastor, but he serves as a pastor while he's a coach, should be, or as a teacher, as a nurse. It is our job to be salt and light so that when others see us, when others hear us, they speak well of our Father. Here's a few of the lessons I caught. Serving is what Jesus was committed to. Are you? Or do you want somebody to wait on you? In a restaurant? It shocks me when people say, oh, that's all right, she'll get it. Like she's your slave. Like you own stock in her. Like somehow you're below, or she is below, the waitress is below you, where you want a napkin, and now you're going to pitch a fit because she didn't bring it the first time you clicked your finger. Why don't you get off and go ask somebody and get one yourself? That's what it means to serve. You can't expect somebody else, just because they get $1.95 plus tips, to be your slave. All of us are to serve. Jesus was committed to it. Another lesson. Jesus said, serving is what Jesus said defines true greatness in his kingdom. Serving is what Jesus said defines true greatness. It's what Jesus was committed to. And a third lesson as I read those words. Serving is what Jesus expects of those who call themselves his followers. One of the things I look for in your life is when we have things that need to be done around here, whether it's flowers to be planted, tables. Somebody had to set this paper on the tables. Did you think about that this morning? When you walked in, if you're a regular here, you should have looked at the tables and said something's different. There's paper on these tables. Why'd they put that there? They think I'm a klutz. I'm going to spill my coffee. Who put this here? Babe, make a note. I'm writing an email to the pastor. Who put that? Instead of saying, Father, somebody took some extra time and put this here. I'm going to engage my brain. Must be we're going to write something. Father, right now I just want to thank the person that took the time to put that paper on the table. How many of you did that? Everybody's hand goes up. Did you? No, we just take everything for granted as somebody's going to do it for me. Really, folks, we need to be just a little bit more spiritual than that as part of the family of God. We treat the workers at church sometimes the way that we have treated our parents or our kids treat us. When's supper going to be ready? Well, why is it 5 minutes? Are we having that again? And mom or dad or somebody at Burger King worked their tail off to provide that meal for you, and we're not grateful. Anybody in my camp with that sometimes? I try to at least acknowledge when I get a meal, because somebody doesn't need to give me the meal. Like my mother said, I have two and half a. Figure it out yourself, Don. Serving. Are you getting the idea here that you ought to serve in the church and in your community? If I'm a new guy, why would I want to pastor you? Oh, for the money. I'll compare paychecks anytime with you. For the money, no. For the prestige of moving from somewhere to Berry County. Woo! It's like going to Bellevue, isn't it? Like going from Mumbai, a city of how many? 17 to 20 million to Bellevue. Woo! And you know what's between us? This is why I like you so much. Calamo. Why would a guy want to come here? He would want to come here to lead a group of servants. And he would expect servanthood out of all of you. 4 reasons why we should think more about serving and less about being served. First is this: serving deepens our faith. Trusting or having faith in Jesus is what brings us into the family of God. And the Bible then tells us to live by faith each and every day of our life. Faith gets you saved. Faith is how we live our life. James, the brother of Jesus, not the James we just read about. He had an ego problem. This James was Jesus' brother. He wrote in chapter 2, verse 14 through 17 about our faith as Christians. Faith that is not just wishful thinking or some intellectual agreement. Oh yeah, I believe the Bible. Faith that is authentic is active. Here's what James wrote. And remember, he lived with Jesus probably 3 decades. He observed servanthood in action. Here's what James wrote. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith? Don't most of you claim to be Christians? Yes? So you're telling me you got faith, right? What good is it if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? In other words, you're not doing anything. Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is your faith? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, this is James' words, is dead. It's not real. We were created to serve. Jesus, our Lord, served. Jesus said to be great in heaven, you serve. It's what's expected of us. And James says if you're not serving, you got to question what kind of faith you have. Faith should cause us to depend more upon God, less upon ourselves, to be more concerned about others than just you and I. In Matthew 25:23, we read these words. Someday, we'll stand in front of Jesus. Here's the words you should work to hear. Well done, good and faithful servant. True faith serves. It will deepen your faith because as you're serving, you're interacting with others. You're seeing God work in you and through you and see others blessed because of you. Secondly, serving develops our shape. We're familiar here at Grace, or should be, with the term shape. God has created us very unique, wonderfully made, the psalmist said. Why doesn't he just beam you up to heaven? Remember Star Trek? Beam me up. See? That's the old version. What did they do in the new one? I never watched an episode of the new stuff. Beam me up who? Fred? Did they say beam me up? You'd have to, if you have never, how many have no idea what I'm talking about? Not just today, but about beam me up Scotty. Okay. Why doesn't God just take us home? Think about it. He saved you from sin. Wouldn't you do better there than here? Unless you stop and think maybe he's keeping us here for practice time so we really know how to worship when we get there. Do you realize that when a Christian gets to heaven, you will rule and serve with the Lord? Maybe he's keeping you here so you get practice time or you learn the art of serving. That's what this world is. He's got us here for a reason. In Ephesians 2:10 it says, "For we are God's handiwork." We're God's project. We're His crafts. Created in Christ Jesus to do good works. God has prepared these for you in advance. In other words, before you were ever created, He already knew your life. He's created multiple opportunities for you to hear about the Lord, multiple opportunities for you to share the Lord, and multiple opportunities for you to serve the Lord. How are you doing in that regard? Every day of your life is a new opportunity to serve in your church in some capacity. And if you're praying for the church, that is serving the church. Got that? And in your community. Every single day of your life, you are given an opportunity to serve. How you doing? Shape we use here at the church. S-H-A-P-E. It's a unique way that you've been put together. Spiritual, S, gifts. H, heart passions, things that make you just crazy. You want to get involved. A, your abilities. P, your personality style. And E, all the stuff that's happened to give you experiences in life that you can learn from. That's your shape. Now think about it. God's created you with a shape. Here at this church, Aaron Smith teaches a class called Your Shape. Learn how God's uniquely put you together so that you can serve. And he has a class teaching you about the church. Have you made the effort to take that shape class and the Here's Grace class? Sad thing is there are people here, have been here for decades and haven't moved a muscle to get engaged in the church or to take those classes. And I'm going like, why? Are you the repository of all truth? You know everything already? We should care enough to minister in those two locations. 1 Peter 4:10 is a passage that speaks to our life. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace. Each of you. How many? Yeah, every single person should use your spiritual shape to minister. You know, to be heroic is to do the right thing in the face of adversity or difficulty. To do the right thing in the face of difficulty or adversity. in spite of the consequences or circumstances. Everybody can be heroic. Do you realize to serve in a church and see your job, see your place in your neighborhood, to see your school, to see the area around you where you interact with others, to see that as your mission field, as your place of ministry, see your church and all of that, you have to be heroic. In the face of difficulty, in adversity, to do the right thing, because there's circumstances and there's situations that keep pulling you back, that keep telling you to be selfish, that keep telling you to be entitled, that tell you your little effort really won't make a difference. You have to be a hero to stand up and say, I will live differently. I will commit to my church family. I will view my job, my schooling, my neighborhood as a place to represent God. It takes a hero to do that. It takes a hero to do that. Third, serving draws us into authentic community. God created man, Adam. Now, I find this difficult to wrap I have a very little brain, very little capacity. How about you? I don't get this. God created Adam in a perfect environment, Jeff. Can you imagine that? Hunting, fishing, boats. Lions and tigers were not invented then. There was no frustration in life. It's just God and Adam. Adam and God. Adam would wake up in the morning. Guess who's there? God. Wasn't even a dog. It was God. Genesis 2:18. God's looking at Adam. Adam's looking at God. What do you want to do today, God? Just hang out again? Think about how cool that would be. The Lord God said, it is not good for man to be alone. Can you see the look on Adam's face? What? Now, he didn't know what another human being was. He was a human being. He was it. What you talking about? You can hear him say that. I will make a helper suitable for him, a helpmate. Now, we understand that as woman and man becoming one flesh, husband, wife. We get that, right? By the way, did you see my post on my Facebook page? Baby pictures of Adam and Eve. If you haven't gone there, you need to. I actually have found baby pictures of them. In other words, what God's saying is, you need another human in your life. You cannot just think that God alone is what I created you for. He creates another human being. Both the Jewish and the Christian faith scream the word community. Every aspect of the Old and New Testament and their culture screams community. You have to be engaged with people. Why? People encourage you. People support you. People correct you. People mold you. People teach you. People challenge you. Is that why we don't like being in community? Because you have to be transparent. You have to be open. You have to be the V word. Vulnerable. God created human beings for community. Your church provides community at all sorts of levels. Your community itself, the larger community, allows you the chance to interact with humanity. I don't like human beings. Want to join my club on that one? Do you ever feel like you're the only smart person? And that's our problem. I do all the time, except when I'm with you. Something's wrong. Something's been broken in humanity where we want to play games and we want to be better than others. That's not biblical, folks. That's sinful. Now, you're not always going to like everybody where they're your cup of tea, but you can surely love them more than you dislike them. At least Jesus could. It draws us. When we serve next to somebody, it draws us into community. A week or so ago, I think, we had 25 people, Ryan, over in Vermontville? 25 people of this church showed up in Vermontville. Not all of them live there. Evie and I and Kelly Shaver don't live in Vermontville. Well, that's that town. You know how they are. Vomitville. That's the way it was pronounced to me when I moved up here. I lived in Nastyville, right? Jeff, remember those days? I don't live there. Not my syrup. I don't even like maple syrup. Why should I go to the syrup festival? Gosh darn, what's wrong with you people? 25 people showed up there. Ryan said, bring your gloves. He didn't say bring a work tool. You know what we did? We picked up trash in Vermontville. Ew. That's why you wear the gloves, folks. If you're smart, you'll wear long pants and hose down afterwards. Some amazing stuff has been thrown out of car windows. Can I just tell you that? But when you're picking up trash with somebody, and it's a simple task, you get lots of opportunities to talk, to share life, to be encouraged, to hear what's going on in somebody else's life so you can pray for them. Agreed? People say, well, why do you sit at these tables? That's uncomfortable. I know you actually have to look at somebody's face besides mine. That's one of the reasons I have you do it. You get to talk with people. You get to interact. You get to hold hand. You get to laugh. It's kind of like being around your table at home. I've never been to a home where there's all these chairs set up looking in one direction. Now, maybe you've got a house like that. This is family, folks. This is why we do this. When we serve alongside of somebody, whether we're out there or we're in here, we get to know real people. We get to pray with them, talk with them, listen to them, introduce them to new people who they can connect with. Serving draws us into authentic community. Here's your fourth reason why you should consider serving in your church, whether it's here at Grace or the church you naturally and normally attend. Serving demonstrates the reality of God's love to a world who desperately is in need. Right? It demonstrates the reality of God's love. One of my favorite verses in all of the Bible, one of the early verses I read when I first became a Christian, is in the book of Acts in chapter 10 and verse 38. It's talking about Yahshua, talking about Jesus. Jesus is the one that has died for us. Jesus is the one who prays for us in heaven. Jesus is the one who has gifted us. Jesus is the one who is providing for us daily. Jesus is the one who created the entire universe so that we could play. Speaking of Jesus, it says this: God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and power. And Jesus went around doing good in healing all who were under the power of the devil because God was with him. And it's that last little phrase, because God was with him, that captured my heart. That's the evidence of our faith, folks. It's the evidence that God really indwells us, because then there's an outflow of Jesus through us to others. You want to be like Jesus today? It's not about the version of the Bible you carry. Not about how much money you give or don't give to a church. It's not about the name on the church. You want to live like Jesus? Then serve like Jesus. Now, I tell people all the time when I travel what a great group of people we've got, because so many of you are engaged in the ministries of this church. Unbelievable percentage when we look at it compared to the average church out there. But we have to fight to be biblical. We have to fight to be healthy. And we have to fight to want to serve. Why? Because everything in human existence is trying to pull you back from that. Do you realize that? The world doesn't want you to serve. Your own flesh feels lazy at times. Ev, I came home today. What was the first thing I did? I went back to bed for a half hour. You're tired. I could have just laid there, right? I'm here. Well, that's your job. Want to change paychecks? I don't do this because it's a job. I do this because it's my chance to try to love on you a little bit like Jesus, to try to encourage you, to speak truth to you, to pray for you and with you. That's what he wants from us. You want to be like Jesus? Then serve. Find a ministry in the church. If you're already serving, yay. Don't quit. But find a place in your community, Jeff, Evie, and all the rest of you. Look at your job. Look at your opportunities and say, how can I use this for Jesus? How can I represent him? How can I touch lives? Because every day that goes by, and I was going to bring a great big pot here with sand in it. I was going to run up on the hill and get sand. Why didn't I do it? Can you just see it? Ryan would shoot me if I spilled sand all over. So you're going to have to picture this. Bowl, a lot of sand. You pick it up, and if you hold it, what's going to happen like this to most of that sand? You see, this is your life, folks. Every grain is a day. You only can hold on to it for a little bit, and it's going to, like a sieve, go away. Every grain of sand is a day. Every day is a chance for you to be Jesus to someone. Don't let it what? Slip away. Father, for our people today, we are family. Everybody here is somebody else's weirdo, but we're family. Help us to see that we have a responsibility, whether it's little or big. So at the end of history, Lord, when the credits of Grace Church are run on the screen, all of our names will be there somewhere, having done something that matters, whether little or big. And so we can make a difference in the world where you've placed us, this community. And by doing that, we'll honor you and recognize your church and your ownership and authority in this church. But in doing so, we'll help many a person out there who doesn't know you. Let us be more like you and less like we want to be, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. You got